Yo, what's going on? Chavo Guerrero Jr. here, giving a big shout out to Wrestling Rehab. Keep watching, keep listening, and viva la raza.
Órale. Órale, Cholo Trucker Wrestling Rehab. Shouts to all the junkies out there. You know, it went over my head that we just passed um, the date where the Macho Man Randy Savage passed away. Shouts to Esther Benny from the Box State Homes who let us know on a live. We just happened to be live that day talking about something else. And he let us know that, hey, man, it was on that day, May 20th, that the Macho Man Randy Savage passed away. And for one reason or another, I just couldn't get it out of my head. It's been that long. May 20th, 2011 is the day that Randall Morrow Polfo died. I remember that. If you asked me, or if you said to me, like, hey, the Macho Man died about 6 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, that sounds about right. Man, I had no idea that it has been over 10 years, well over 10 years, that the Macho Man passed away. Um, man, I'll tell you, what a career he had, and what a wrestler, and the way he stood out, especially being so close to, back in those days, it was definitely the land of the giants, right? And he was so close, like right there with the immortal Hulk Hogan. And for a guy his size, he was a lot smaller than Hulk Hogan, but he was somewhat still kind of on that level. He never got to be the huge superstar that the Hulkster was, right? Because the WWF at that time used Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania to really build the brand and do something with it. And I mean, the Macho Man was right there in the mix as well, even though he wasn't the guy the way the Hulkster was. But when we're talking about wrestling skills, I mean, come on, it's not even a question who was a much, much, much better wrestler. It was definitely the Macho Man Randy Savage. One thing that I made a video of the Macho Man a while back, man, when we first started wrestling rehab, and one thing that kind of stuck out to me was his dad, Angelo, was a wrestler himself in the 50s and 60s. And the thing about him was he was featured on Ripley's Believe It or Not for the amount of sit-ups he can do. I don't remember how many sit-ups, but I knew that I do remember that he could go for a few hours just cracking those sit-ups off, man. Enough where he got Ripley's Believe It or Not, their attention. I wonder who's if is that a record in the Guinness Book of World Records? How many sit-ups someone can do? But that's something that definitely stuck with me. And we all know, his younger brother, the genius, Lenny Poffo and all. But I kind of want to just stick with the Macho Man Randy Savage. Some things that people don't know about him. He was actually a professional baseball player, man. I remember that with the video that I made about him. That kind of struck me a little bit like, whoa, wait a second. This dude was a professional baseball player playing for the Reds and the Cardinals. Like, hey, man, this dude was all about it, man. This guy was a real, actual, true athlete. And you could tell he was also in the ring, right? I mean, look, wrestlers are athletes, regardless of what anybody says. They are athletes, man. They're some of the best athletes. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and tell you guys this. When anybody ever refers to, hey, who's some of the best athletes in the world, wrestlers need to be mentioned. With what they do, the athleticism, the conditioning that they have, they need to be. They need to be recognized as athletes. But yeah, man, I mean the Macho Man being a professional baseball player back in his younger years, and then moving on to professional wrestling. I'll tell you guys this, man. The Macho Man, me myself personally, I started watching him. Um, the first time I remember him was him being beside the Hulkster. So I know we had I know he was in a tag team with him, but what people don't realize, and I saw this, I had looked it up, that they were only together, him and the Hulkster were only together uh as a tag team, the Mega Powers, for 3 matches. Only 3 matches. Yet the Mega Powers is still known. Now, are they well known as a powerhouse when it comes to tag teams, like some of these other ones, like Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, or Brothers of Destruction, or the Acolytes, or the Heart Foundation, or any of those guys? No, no, they're not. But they're definitely still mentioned when anybody ever mentions great tag teams of all time. I still do hear people mention the Mega Powers, even though they were only in 3 matches together. But I'll be real with you guys, man. I don't think the Macho Man really started blowing up until he actually turned heel and went against Hulk Hogan. And they met up, I remember at WrestleMania 5. They met at WrestleMania 5, and the Hulkster beat him. And I think from there, you guys let me know when you guys believe the Macho Man really started breaking free and really started doing his thing. I believe from there. Now, he was already somewhat of a big star. Don't get me wrong, going into WrestleMania 5, right? Because in WrestleMania 4, he was in this, I believe it was a tournament or of some sort against, what was it, One Man Gang. And then he was in there against the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. The Hulkster came down and had to help him out because Andre the Giant was out there helping out DiBiase. And yeah, he was definitely growing. Don't get me wrong; he was going to be a big star no matter what. But I think it was after WrestleMania 5 that when he lost to Hogan, that he really started blowing up. That's when I really started seeing his character develop a heck of a lot more. Um, Man, just so many memories when it comes to the Macho Man and his dress attire, his promos, the way he talked. And the cool thing about it is that if you talk to anybody that was around in the business that knew the Macho Man, that knew uh, the Macho Man Randy Savage, they would tell you, hey, he actually talked like that. You could find today so many wrestlers that worked with him back then, especially Jake the Snake Roberts. I'll get to that in a second. But that said, hey, that's the way he talked. When you heard him, oh yeah, brother, snap it to the Slim Jim. That was another one, right? When you hear him talk like that, everybody said, hey, that's actually how he really talked. Spending time with him on the road, spending time with him backstage. Every wrestler that spent time with him have told has came out and said that's how he actually really talks, which is crazy because that's not a character that's portraying then. But hang on here, okay. But yeah, once the glasses, the hat, all that stuff, that really started blowing up. Um, I know he was, King Macho Man, but I thought he really started blowing up when he started having Sensational Sherry by his side. She was so damn good. So damn good. We gotta do a video package just on her, man. She was so damn good. One of the greatest of all time when it comes to managers. Hands down, one of the greatest ever to do it. And I thought she really helped out his career, especially with with the love interest with Elizabeth and all when that started coming around. But one big match that I thought was huge for the Macho Man was 1992 SummerSlam. It was the Macho Man Randy Savage versus the Ultimate Warrior. Now, it was huge because in those days you did not see two baby faces face each other. It was beyond rare. You'll see that today, and it's not too much of a big deal. But you never saw babyface versus babyface, and you never saw heel versus heel. But you had the Macho Man versus the Ultimate Warrior, and then you had the presence of Ric Flair and Mr. Perfect out there talking about like, "Hey, we paid one of these guys off." Um, and I thought that was an important match. Was it a good match? I mean, it was a decent match. The one that really stole the show that night was the British Bulldog versus Bret the Hitman Hart. A match that I thought really, really fell short was WrestleMania 8 when the Macho Man faced Ric Flair. I thought that was a horrible match. But that's when the Macho Man took the strap off of Ric Flair going into SummerSlam. At that time, I thought the Macho Man was going full blast, man. Was he the biggest star in the company? Man, even though he was champion, I'll go ahead and tell you guys this, man. Even though he was champ, I don't think the Macho Man was ever really the biggest star in the business. I think you can make an argument that he was one of the biggest stars, but I don't think you can ever say he was the biggest star. He was champion and he was a good champion. He was a good champ, definitely, absolutely good champ. But I don't think you could say that he was the guy. I don't think you could say he was carrying the company. But I'll definitely tell you guys this, man. At that time, what he was doing in the ring, his elbows from the top turnbuckle, him just jumping over the top rope, that guy could still keep up with wrestlers today. His style of wrestling back then, it would fly today. There's so many wrestlers from back in the day that were huge, right? Huge, larger than life. They were the face. But when you look at their work inside of the ring, yeah, it may have worked at that time, whatever that time may have been, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, even the early 90s, right? But you know damn well it would not work today. You'll be like, yeah, no, man. He was a big star in that time because it was 1987. But fast forward to today, he would not be able to make it, in today's wrestling. That's not the case with the Macho Man because the guy was very athletic. His agility was something else, especially for that time. And that killer elbow, man, just his pose while he's up in the air was is different. The way he puts his legs, the way he like puts his arms, his chest, it's almost like he's posing in the air. It was just different, man. It was just different. The way he would have his punches, everything. It was just different. And obviously we can't forget, him being involved with Slim Jim. I know a lot of people remember the Ultimate Warrior being involved with Slim Jim, but look, man, the Macho Man Randy Savage had his run with Slim Jim. Snap it to the Slim Jim. And it was huge, man. It was huge back in those days. Now, the Macho Man, like so many. Well, first of all, I guess I should go ahead and mention the fact that you know, for one reason or another, Andre the Giant hated the Macho Man Randy Savage, man. Like that. That was no secret. Uh, but the last that I somewhat remember of the Macho Man, at least with WWF, he had that career match, the career-ending match with the Ultimate Warrior, where the Ultimate Warrior, shoot, landed like, heck, I don't even remember. Maybe one of you guys could tell me, but he landed like 7 flying shoulder blocks, hitting the Macho Man cleanly out of the ring. Then Warrior will go out of the ring, grab him, throw him back in the ring, and then run to the ropes and hit him with another flying shoulder block. So he wins the career ending match. Sensational Sherry goes crazy, starts kicking the Macho Man while he's down. Here comes Miss Elizabeth, grabs Sherry from the greñas and throws her out of the ring. At this time, the Macho Man and Elizabeth were beefing with each other, but he saw that she had her back. Oh, she had his back. And then they kiss, they make up. He hoists her over her shoulder, over his shoulder, I should say. Everybody, it's a good, loving, happy story. Everybody's clapping. Everybody falls in love with their love. And there it is, man. They ride off into the sunset. Now, that is one of the last memories that I have with the Macho Man in the WWF. I know he did some commentary as well, and he was pretty good at commentary, even though he's got that rough voice, like, "Oh yeah, man." He's still, I liked him in commentary, man. I liked him. I remember him doing the King of the Ring in 1993 when Bret the Hitman Hart won. I thought, there were a few wrestlers that I thought did some pretty kick-ass jobs, man. Macho Man Randy Savage is one that flies under the radar. The Hot Rod, Roddy Piper, I liked him in commentary as well. Obviously, everybody remembers Jesse the Body Ventura when he was there with Gorilla Monsoon. I think that was probably one of the biggest powerhouses right there when you talk about commentary. But the Macho Man did pretty good in commentary. And I think that's probably where he ended. I can't tell you guys for sure. I'm just going off the top of my head on where I remember the Macho Man. As far as his last match, I can't tell you when his last match was. I I can almost guarantee he had another match or two after the career-ending match against the Ultimate Warrior. And then I do remember him doing some commentary. And then and I do remember uh he was doing commentary one time and he had threw his sunglasses down, right? He threw his sunglasses down and he looked right at the camera. I don't remember what match it was. And I remember he pointed at the camera and he says, "I'm gonna be honest, man," and I'm not, I'm not saying it word for word here, so I'm just kind of paraphrasing. He pretty much went somewhere along the line that it is hard for him just to sit there and do commentary while he sees the boys in there rocking and rolling in the ring where he wants to be. But instead, they got him doing commentary. And that was somewhere around the last time my memory goes with the Macho Man Randy Savage with the WWF was doing commentary. I don't remember his final match. I don't. But that's pretty much where I last remember him seeing him there. And then and I don't know what I don't remember what year that was either. And then, like so many others, I remember him seeing going to WCW. Now, apparently he was in TNA for a while as well. I know nothing about that. I'll be real with you guys. I know absolutely nothing about that. But obviously, I do remember his run at WCW. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that I'm the biggest WCW fan and I know everything about WCW because I'm not. I did pay attention to it here and there, here and there. I wasn't a huge fan of WCW, but I did watch it, especially when a lot of the guys went over there. I did pay attention to it a little bit more, but I wasn't like a diehard fan of WCW. But I do remember when the Hulkster, when he went heel with Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, and Big Daddy Cool Diesel, Kevin Nash, it was at the expense of the Macho Man. They were beating up on the Macho Man. He was laying on the ground. Out comes the Hulkster, walking, marching to the ring. Everybody's cheering like he's going to go in there and let Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, he's going to let them have it. He gets in the ring. He runs to the rope. Boom. Leg drop right on the Macho Man. And that is when turned heel. It was when the Macho Man Randy Savage was in the ring. Now, fast forwarding through all that, the Macho Man, he himself turns heel. He himself goes, with the New World Order and all that stuff, man. And then a lot of things just fall apart with Elizabeth and Lex Luger and all that drama that they had over there, which, I mean, I don't really want to get into all that with Lex Luger and Elizabeth, but um, man, the Macho Man. What a character. What a character, what a career. I don't really want to get into, the relationship he had with Elizabeth. I heard he was like a really, really, really jealous guy. But um just man, what a career, what a character, man. What a way to stand out. You know, in those days back then, you had characters that portrayed something, right? Like the big boss man, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. I couldn't really tell you what character the Macho Man Randy Savage really was. He was just kind of this ah, flashy guy because of his costume, but at the same time, his his persona was not a flashy guy either, right? It's not like Rick the Model Martel who comes out and thinks he's all that on a bag of chips. Like the Macho Man was this, like his clothing was very flashy and all the tassels and the sunglasses and the hat and everything. But he was a rough around the edges kind of guy, though. He didn't have this persona that he's super good looking, or kind of like ravishing Rick Rude, or anything like that, or even somebody of the likes of the Nature Boy Ric Flair, or anything like that. Like, he was a straight rough around the edges, don't mess with me, just a really rough guy, right? But yeah, his clothing, not to say that his clothing was feminine or anything of that nature, because it wasn't, but it was just very, very flashy. And it was cool to see at that time, man. It really was. And I think the Macho Man Randy Savage today could definitely still, you know, uh be as relevant. See, somebody like Hulk Hogan, just because he's big, he was slow. He meant a lot to the business, and they used the right guy to build the business at that time, which was the Hulkster, right? With his size and Hulkamania, and say your prayers, take your vitamins, and all that good stuff, right? All that stuff that wouldn't work today. But the Macho Man, man, I'll tell you guys, the Macho Man Randy Savage, just his character, his persona, um, the flashy clothes, the hat, the glasses, his in-ring performance. I mean, this guy was top notch, man. This guy was top notch. I I loved it. I loved it, man. I really did. I loved it. He made wrestling just that much better. He really did. He was a really good baby face, and he was a really good heel. There are some wrestlers that can't pull that off. There's some wrestlers today that can't pull that off. But he was great as a face. He was great as a heel. Some people might say that he was a much better heel. Yeah, I think he was probably, if I had to pick one, maybe he was better at being a heel. But I'll tell you guys this: when he was a face, I didn't see anybody have a problem with it. People would cheer him on. People would definitely cheer him on as a face, as did I. I did the same thing. I loved him as a baby face. But man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. What a career. What a legend. What a legend in just of wrestling. But anyway, junkies, I just want to come on here, man, because I was reminded that the anniversary of his death passed not too long ago. And ever since then, man, ever since then, it was just on my mind. I was just thinking about it. I don't know why, but I was just thinking about it. And I just want to come on and talk a little Macho Man Randy Savage, because a lot of good childhood memories growing up, watching his career. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe his career was much bigger, before, from what I was saying, right? I thought personally that his career really blew up after WrestleMania 5, when he lost to the Hulkster. I knew he was big already. I mean, heck, he was champion, but I thought he just blew up even more. But nonetheless, man, hey, man, rest in peace. RIP to one of the greatest of all time, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Cholo Trucker, Wrestling Rehab. Shouts to all the junkies. I'll catch you guys on next one.
And I hope that one time